This is The Righteous View with your hosts, Adia Byers, Deborah Hoskins, and Christina McCormick.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to The Righteous View. I am Avia Byers, and this is our weekly podcast, which will focus on topics regarding women of all ages. Our mission is to focus or foster righteous, open dialogue on topics that have been taboo within our social communities. We want to cultivate an open and healthy discussions between mothers and daughters, husbands and wives, mature women and young women. Our goal is to educate and provide factual information to these demographics concerning our biological, psychological, and spiritual existence. So I'm going to introducing my co-hosts, Deborah Hoskins and Christina McCormick.
Shalom, shalom. Good evening to each and every one. Thanking you, each and every one of you, for joining us this evening. We want to encourage you to tune in weekly every evening at 6 p.m. Eastern and 11 p.m. Ghana time. And right here, we want you to tune in, join us for the right here for thoughts provoking topics that will hopefully stimulate conversations that are sometimes hard and uncomfortable. Hallelujah.
Yes, shalom, y'all. We are live on Facebook at Hebraic Awakening and The Righteous View. And if you happen to miss our podcast, okay, you can view it and past podcasts on our YouTube channel at The Righteous View. If you enjoy the topics and discussions have helped you in any way, please subscribe, like, and hit that notification button.
Hit that notification button. That's it. So, ladies, today's topic, we're excited. Mom, what's going on?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about adolescence. So, we're going to start with the stages of adolescence. And then we're going to go through the changes, emotional and physical changes during adolescence, the signs of puberty, and most of all, how to open the conversation with your daughters.
Yes. So, go ahead, prophetess.
Oh, so as we will, kind of come in and discuss right now, if you are having don't know how to approach or whatever, this is the perfect platform. Join in. Mothers, bring your daughters, fathers, all those, each and every one come in. And as we're discussing, this is a very excellent time that you can join in and listen and just certain topics that we'll be bringing out and that we'll discuss as your children, your daughters are there listening. And as they may have questions and as we're giving certain answers, this is an opportune time where you can even further go into further, opening conversations. And then, you know what? It is important that you have that communication with your daughters. You don't want them going to other people, but that they'll feel comfortable. And this is why we're here. We're going to bring issues and the things that we're going to talk about that, you may not feel comfortable talking about, but we're going to start it. And as we get it out, then you should be, it'll bring you'll feel more comfortable to be able to expound on it and then have a one-on-one, or even if you have others daughters, you can bring in the conversation where you become more, because the more you talk about it, the more you're comfortable about it. And you want your daughters to feel comfortable to be able to come to you, mom, not to no one else, but that they can come to you, and that you're not here to criticize, but to educate them as you're being educated, as we're all being educated, to learn more and have that dialogue. And that's the important thing, having an open dialogue with your daughters, right?
Yes, yes. So, moms, I'm going to open up with a story because a lot of us have adopted our elders' ways before us, that we just don't talk about it, that we handle it as it comes. All right. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes I know if you are a single mother, you're working, hard, you may be working two jobs and you feel you don't have the time, but we have to lay those excuses to rest, because this is why we are building community. This is why we have this platform. So it's never really, it's never too early. We was just discussing this to start that conversation. For me, I'm going to give you my story about one of my daughters, and she wasn't no older than 7 or 8, and her teacher called me after school, and she said, your daughter, she's a little taint, she's a little taint, and I believe she may need to put deodorant on. And I'm like, she's only, 7, she's too young. And she said no. And she began to educate me, and it's so funny because it's like, you know, dang, did somebody have to tell me that? But I didn't think you started so soon. And she went further to tell me that I could see her little nipples through her shirt at 7. And you may want to buy her a bra. And you know what? I did not get offended. So I want our mothers to stop getting offended if the teachers call you and say, your children, their hygiene, because this is why we are having this conversation, because most of us are not having the conversation. And I told her, thank you for calling me. And I was a young mother. Thank you for calling me. And if anything else comes up that you see, please let me know. And I went out. And that next morning, I know that teacher appreciated me putting some deodorant on my child. I had her a bra so she wouldn't see her nipples through her clothes. So if your child is experiencing adolescence at 7, at 6, and they have the intelligence to know what's going on, because some of us, our young children, our grandchildren have the intelligence to know what's going on, then that is the time that you are going to sit down and explain to them in the terms that they can understand. And in the social media world, come on, you can find a YouTube video that's kid friendly that can help you explain if you are just okay. So we have to start the conversation, because as we go into the topic, especially next week, we are going to find that because, and I'm not knocking because I was a single mother too, because we are now in one parent households, our children do not know about hygiene like they should. And as a previous nurse, and now I am a teacher, I can attest to younger teens and young adult women not knowing how to care for their bodies, not knowing how to wipe from front to back, not knowing that you should take a shower every day. And sometimes I tell my girls that when you have your menstruation, you can take 2 showers. Ain't nobody gonna shame you for taking 2 showers if that's what you to do, because you just need to do that to stay as fresh as you can during that special time. So we are here to talk about these things. And if you are getting uncomfortable, you need to check yourself, because you have a very old school mentality, and it is hurting our community. So
And if I could just jump in there really, really quick, because they're thinking about my parents came from just a very different generation where they did not take a shower every day, and I remember my dad making. I love him. He's passed away, transitioned, but I remember him telling my mother, "That girl take a shower every day." And I thought, uh, okay, I I didn't know I didn't know what to say, and I don't know what my mother said to him, because men can be a little different, but with women, and I'm sure that's what my mother took him in the room and said to him. She's a girl. With women, we have to take care of us, and we have to bathe daily in order, to stay fresh. And understanding that wiping from front to back is so important, because if you wipe from the back to the front, you can cause that stool or bowel to get in the vaginal area and cause yeast infections. So if you are dealing with yeast infections and not understanding how you're getting them, there's different ways that you can get them. And we'll get into that concerning once you come into a relationship, have a husband, and get married, the things that can happen. Men's bodies are very different from ours. But with a woman, wiping from back to front definitely can get yeast infections and all kind of problems, vaginal issues, because that bowel is not supposed to come to that area.
yes, and we're gonna dive into that more next week. But
Yeah.
sometimes our young I hate to say it, but our young girls, 12, 13, they're out there having sex. I'm sorry. I'm in the
True.
school. I know.
That's
I
true.
know. So
So
these
them
conversations you have to have. So, and then they're having sex and they don't even know their bodies. They don't know what PMS is. They ain't never heard of the word premenstrual syndrome. So
correct.
that's how we're gonna start. Especially, I hope you dads are not turning off the channel. Sit
No,
in
please
there,
listen. Please
please,
stay and listen.
please, because
Right.
I had we had a brother, y'all. His wife, she was a drug addict, and they had 7 children. And I remember me and my cousin, helping him, and he had his mom, but helping him with because he had a lot of girls. I
Mhm.
forgot how many girls he had. He had a lot of girls, and we would help him comb their hair and just teach him. So some dads, okay, even if you are in a single parent household, some dads are involved. We're not gonna act like all dads are just deadbeat. Okay. Some dads take their children on the weekend or for the summer or whatever, and you have to deal with these issues, especially
Very
when you're
involved. Correct.
yeah, 15. So don't turn us off. Stay
Right.
there and listen, so we're gonna deal with the stages, and I'm gonna let prophetess go in there. But stages, PMS, and as we were talking off camera, this stage can happen a couple of years before it
Mhm.
actually happens. So if your daughter is going to start their ministration at 12, you having this conversation at 8, 9. I'm sorry. You just going to
Absolutely.
have to be a big girl and a big boy, and you're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to talk. And this community is here. So if you have private questions, please, I forgot to put the email. Please email us at the righteous view 01 at gmail.com. So, prophetess, I'll let you go into the stages
So
of puberty.
yeah. So as we're talking and the importance of it. First of all, we know that normally a girl starts her menstrual from the ages at the common ages between 8 and 13. Now it can be before that and it can be after that, because a lot of things, the factors that can affect, when they start their menstrual, the genetics, it can
Right.
be due to genetics, ethnicities, the body size. All of these play a role. Nutrition, exercise, stress levels, and hormonal imbalances. So
Mhm.
it can start very early, because we heard last week, that we heard that it was a girl had gotten her menstrual at 5 years old. Now that's unusual, but
Mhm.
it's not where it can happen, because we see that it did happen.
Mhm.
So these things, but there are signs that kind of give you an idea when they're about to start. In essence, as it's been said, as Tina talked about, PMS, meaning premenstrual stages. One of the stages is they start to get their breasts, the nipples, that starts to develop having the
Right.
breast, and then pupil, public hair, start to have hair on the body parts, in the private areas, and even underarms. And they'll start to develop in this way. And even, we're talking about, because the topic is, Mom, what's going on with me? Even vaginal discharge
Yeah.
at a very young age. And this is common. And why I say it's common, because they may not understand, why is this happening to me? What's going on? But it's natural. And this is what we want you to know, that, and letting our girls know that it's natural. You're not strange. Things are going to start happening. And so usually when their breast starts to bud, they say, like, within 6 months to even 2 years, that
Mhm.
the menstrual may start. So now you have an idea when you start seeing that. And just as Christina talked about what the teacher said about her daughter, and if they start to get pupil hair in areas, then you know that they're gonna start to need maybe a little deodorant or whatever. You don't want to use anything strong. Now we're living at the time you can use herbal. There are herbal deodorants, even baking soda, different things that will keep the odor down. Or, because the hormonic body is starting to develop. This young girl is starting to develop into a young lady. And now, as such, she needs to know how, as a young lady, this body is sacred, because we want to bring in, this is why, a righteous view, the right way of doing things. Now letting them know that you're special, that you have to take care of this beautiful body that you were gifted with. And it's not strange, because they may start to have little mood changes, or
Right.
feeling like,
Right.
that they're off, something is not right. So you're going to deal with mood changes and just different things, and that they feel like, oddball, and just all kind of different things, acne even.
Absolutely.
After they get a certain age, they'll start getting pimples. So these
Mhm.
are signs of just natural development that they need to know. And as a parent, you need to make them feel comfortable that they're not, nothing strange is going on. They're just growing. This is all a part of growing, and young ladies into a young lady, and knowing, and teaching them how to use tampons, or not, everybody doesn't care for that, pads, and how to use them, and keeping a check on just even how they smell, because even checking on, because you're a young lady, you have to, take care of yourself, personal hygienes, and just different things. And that, you can't just do. And just like Christina said, we're living in a time also of TikTok. and all these different things, and all of you can't even turn on the TV without getting X-rated stuff. So all of this stuff is in their face. So now they may even start to think like, oh, I'm getting this. I'm a woman, and now I can do. No, your body is special. Your body is it. You have to. Teaching them how important their bodies are, how important that they have to learn to not let anyone touch them, and not giving themselves because they're special. You're a jewel. You're precious.
Right.
You don't let anyone take advantage of you in no form of fashion. And letting them know, that you are beautiful, and that no one has to tell you you're beautiful. You have to know it for yourself.
Absolutely.
And if you are a parent that's suffering with, a lack of self-esteem, I'm here to tell you you're beautiful. But you're going to have to, be that example for your daughters.
Reinforcement.
It is, to force them to know, that they're special. And so I'm let one of my sisters, they can continue on in this.
As you were going through the different things, I remember when it was my friend in school that taught me how to put a sanitary napkin on properly. Because I said my mom was she wasn't ready, poor thing. I love her, but she just couldn't do it. So I went to school and I kept wondering why I kept messing up my clothes, my pants, and I'd be so embarrassed and everything. And my friend took me in the bathroom and she said, Alvita, that's because you have, at that time, the sanitary napkin was about that long. And it had, no joke, no lie, ladies. Y'all have it good now. We were struggling back in the day. And it had these long wings like fabric on the ends. And you had to wear like a garter. Women wear skin.
Yeah.
They wear garter belt. Well, this was
all. You're bringing back memories. All of that. Oh my goodness.
You wear a sanitary napkin. So you put this garter on. It had one clamp in the front and one clamp in the back. Right, so you can imagine when you put this big old pad on, you got this just a clamp in the front, clamp in the back, and it's just going like this all day long as you're walking, So I had the pad because I didn't know was on the wrong side.
Oh no.
Supposed to be on the other side. And she said, you put the blue line, Alvita, go back into the stall and put it on with the blue line away from your body. And I was so happy that she helped me with that. And I just believe it had to be the Most High because I was struggling. I was just struggling and I didn't have anybody to talk to and about it. And I was the oldest girl. So I was able to pass it down to my children. But now my daughter was telling me all the wonderful things that they have now, like period cups. They have the little cups that you can put in. They have the period panties where you don't have to keep buying those sanitary napkins all the time. And if you have a bunch of girls, you could go broke just buying, feminine hygiene, every, during that time of the month. So there's so many different ways now that you can, because a lot of times people don't like using the tampons because we found out that those weren't made out of good fabric. They weren't made out of good things. So that caused fibroid tumors, endometriosis, some of them cervical cancer, uterine cancer, because the what they were using was not for internal use. So you want to check.
And products now. organic products that really promotes, where they're using just the cotton and different things. We're
yes,
living
yes.
which
There
is
you go.
great that you're not using a lot of these byproducts because
Right.
they cause a lot of different things. And like you said, but now, you can do the research, you can get it. And just as you said, they even have underwear where now you don't have
Yes.
to buy certain things. So, but then also, as we said, the genetics and the different hormonal balances and different things within the young ladies that other things that you have to be, once they do start their menstruals, that sometimes they may cramp up, they may,
Right.
cause, having cramping and
Is a
mood
reason.
swings where
Mood
they
swing.
really
Absolutely.
bad, mood swings,
Absolutely.
that you have to be in tune. And this is one thing as a mother, even you have some fathers who are raising children, daughters, even,
Fathers.
and the mother may not be in the home. So that's why even fathers, to understand and be in tune with your daughters, that you see certain signs and different things, and being aware of these stages, that it doesn't take you where, well, what, they might be saying what's going on, but you might be like, what's going on? So, we need to be educated all the way around. Am I right?
Yes.
So,
So
like I
true.
said, because
That is so
they
true.
have the mood swings. And then they may
Absolutely.
say, well, I'm gonna tell you, I have 5 sisters, and all of them, I said, why am I the one out of all the 5 girls suffering with the most horrible cramps? I mean, some days I couldn't even go to school,
Right.
or even to work, because I suffered with, menstrual cramps. And even before I could tell, even before it was coming on, I would start to feel. So there is also things in your diet,
Yes.
eliminate not having the caffeine, and
Right.
well, young certain things, but even
Yes. Caffeine.
about chocolate or certain um
Sodas.
teas,
Sugary
and,
drinks.
and the sugary things. So certain things that that
Yeah,
we
they fast.
didn't really know when I was younger, that if I didn't, it may not have been so severe. But in
Mhm.
essence, there are things that that even if they're really going through, or you just get up and go to school or whatever, we have to be in tune with our young ladies, with our daughters. And as I said, and now even as they're seeing the change, they're more focused on how they dress. And it might be to the extreme,
Right.
like, why are you worrying about it? You're young. So just kind of be in tune with them. And then certain things that they're going through, even to the point where they may be more about their friends, where now even the relationship with a parent, they're now, where you may have been close when they were younger, now they're more about their friends. But
Right.
it's up to you to try to keep that,
Yeah.
communication. And I'm not saying be their friend. You're always going to be the parent, because I hear people say, oh, that's my friend. No, be a parent. Always be a parent, but be a parent that you're in tune with your daughters,
Yes.
and teaching them the righteous way, teaching them the right way, because they learn from you. You are
That's right.
you are that one that they have to look to, whether they want to hear you or not. You just be that. And then when you're talking, and even if they're not responding or whatever, now you got to give them time also to process it, because don't be overbearing either.
Right.
Give them, as you're there, allow them time to process it, because
Correct.
they're dealing with
Correct.
a lot. This is a lot. You
Yes,
know,
it is.
we are
It
older,
really
like,
is.
oh, that's just nothing, but it is
It
major
really
for
is.
them. This is a
It is.
major step for young ladies. It really
Right.
is. So allow them the time to process. They may
Absolutely.
even want more privacy. Give them a certain amount of privacy.
Right.
Learn, give them, learning how to not only you be the one talking, but listen to what they're saying, and also allow them a time of processing and learning, where they know, where you can, where they feel that you can kind of trust them in a sense, so this is all a process. It is, but it requires continuous open conversation. When they have questions, even if you don't have answers, don't say, well, just go on or whatever. Listen, I don't know. It's all right. This is one thing I did, with my, I never had a problem to say, I don't know.
Right.
You don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And this is, I heard even in the churches and stuff, that people won't, it's hard for them to say, I don't know. If you don't know,
No.
you don't know. But
Right.
it be true. And that's one thing. Be honest, be true, that they know that you're telling them the truth. If you don't know, and you know what? I'm going to find out. Or, let us both do the research about it. Listen, Google, we got information is so easily accessible that you
Right.
can even give a project where we both, gain information, where we now can talk about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So get them involved as you're involved with them, allow them to be involved with you as well.
Absolutely.
Say that.
Yes, yes. Y'all want me to take over?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate to our faith-based community, because we do this. Everything is the devil. Um, that girl just fast. And
Oh,
I'm telling you, like, especially
oh
with
yeah.
the mental, it's a lot going on. So I had wrote down all the technical terms because that's just the nurse in me. But pretty much their brain is changing and developing. And we crack jokes that the Pistons is not firing, but they're not. Okay. So this is a time of rapid, some of us have children who are rapidly growing, and because I'm on the cusp of the old school when the food was food. Right, when stuff was more organic and natural back then. I am seeing you know I'm seeing 5-year-olds and they in the size 10, 12. Right, so we're
Right.
seeing our children rapidly growing, and I know it's the food. It's the vaccines. What else? The medication. Some of our children are sickly out
Right.
the gate. All right. And they are inheriting our bad health and our bad ways of eating. So that will put them into a rapid form of puberty. Now, our children, because of social media, one or two things is happening. If you are a secular person and you really don't, go to church or go to synagogue or go to congregation or whatever, um, your children are overexposed to a lot of social contexts such as sex, drugs, dating, so on. Now, if you are a person of faith, 9 times out of 10, your children are underexposed to social context learning about sex. So, it's like we can't win for losing. But, those of us that are Bible believers, and I say this all the time, if you are called to be the light, inside of that light is knowledge, revelations, and instruction for
That's
life.
right.
You
That's
are
right.
supposed to have the instruction for life so that when people from outside of your community come, because they see that your community of girls and boys are thriving, they are knowledgeable, then they're going to come to you for this type of wisdom and advice. But we are so caught up in religion, and I'm using that word on purpose, that religion keeps us bound and not able to talk about these things. So what
Absolutely.
do we do? We bring shame to our boys and girls, saying you too fast or you too lazy. No, their brains, right? Their pistons are not firing. They are uh
Right.
growing in that area, and I could get really technical, but really their decision making, their memory is are affected. So I was cracking up because we all do it. Didn't I tell you to go in there? And they brain literally, and I'm not making excuses, but their brains during that age is not it's not it's
Mhm.
like, oh yeah. And I say this: puberty, perimenopause, pregnancy, and postmenopause is all the same when it comes to all of these
True.
hormones. I believe we have like 50 hormones inside of our body. So you mean to tell me at age 7, all these hormones and stuff is and you mad because you haven't taken the time to educate yourself, especially those of you that are Bible believers, that you're supposed to have the instructions for life, and you haven't educated yourself because most
Right.
of us hate science. And this is why we're coming with science data in
Right.
science, because I am a firm believer that science agrees with the Bible.
Absolutely.
They just catching up, but they agree with the Bible whether they think so or not. So, with that being said, let's not shun and shame our children, because we're learning and we're doing better. I know some of us, back then didn't have this type of information, but we do now. So, if we do now, we're going to join in on conversations, because I hate when people say, well, I don't have no one to talk to. And yes, you do. You're not going to tell me that you stay in your prayer closet 50, 11 times a day, and you are praying for specific things, and he is not going to answer you. It's not
Well,
going to out of the sky. He's going to
well,
give you different instructions through
well,
different ways in your life. And I'm not
well.
saying we are the end all be all, but you're not going to tell me, because there are some women who's like, well, what do we tell our daughters? What can they read? And I was like, dang, like we really need to step our game up. And this
Step
is
up
why
our game. Right.
we can't just talk about uh in the Hebraic faith. We just can't talk about the second Exodus all day. You all are forgetting about your children, and I get really passionate about the children. You all, just forget we want to go to Mama Africa. We want to, escape. But what about your children? What are they going to be doing? It's the end of the world every 2 seconds, but your children are drowning in life because you
Right.
are so religious. And I want us to break that
We
religious
absolutely
mindset so that our
did.
children can thrive. There was something else. Um, our cultural background, you see, especially in the Black community, plays a
Mhm.
part in our children not knowing about puberty. Why? Because of the reasons I just said. You just don't talk about it. What goes on in this house stays in this house. Stuff like that.
Like
And
that.
our culture is it's really damaging our children as the generation. Because we're at the almost fifth generation, and
Mhm.
we, as I said before, we see the alpha. They like, I don't know what I am. Um, my estrogen and testosterone is through the roof. Y'all, there are medical diagnoses, especially with the foods and meds and vaccines that we're taking, that is lowering our children's testosterone and estrogen and
That's right.
progesterone that
That's right.
controls our hormones and
That's right.
sending signals to our brain,
That's right.
how we should think, how we should live, and so forth. And I'm just paraphrasing that.
Mhm.
And so, because of all of this, our children are drowning because, again, in the Black community, it's church, it's religion, and it's politics, right? And that's what we're focusing on.
Oh,
All over the world, is our Black people are just caught up in politics, and our children is sitting in the room with suicidal thoughts because their
good.
estrogen and
Right.
testosterone levels are so low, and you don't
Right.
even know to go to the doctor and say, can can you test them for this, and this? All right, with
Right.
all of the age of information, you are not typing in, right? That type of stuff. You typing in the end of the world, what the president is doing, and so forth. As we said before, genes play a part in it, right?
Right.
So we are going to have to really watch what we are feeding our children. And I'm not going to get on vaccinations. That's a really hot topic, but at least we can control, we can all agree. that the food sucks out here in North America, and it's contributing to rapid puberty. Or okay, there's a other side. Some of our young ladies may experience late puberty where they're not getting their periods until 18, 19. That's why it's all the way up there till about 19, because some of us, and then you want to, if their period is taking a long time, you may want to take them into the doctor just to be sure, right? Just to be sure. And yeah, like we said last week, if that period is coming at 5, you definitely want to take them into the doctor. You want to say, well, that's just no, you want to take them into the doctor, and you want to make sure nobody has messed with them. All right. So next
Right.
week, and next week is a really good topic because the teens, as you all have touched on it, we're going to take our time with that because teens at this time are very egocentric, but that's what their hormones and things are telling them to be. It's not because they are just rebellious. Because, see, that is the religious way of saying. Now, we know what sin look like, but some
Bad.
teens are just hormonal, and because all the teens experience this egocentric type of behavior, listen, adolescence is the foundation where you're supposed to talk about good health. So by the time they get to teenage stage, you have laid that foundation of good health, communication, and all of that. By the time they get to their teenage peers, they are supposed to, okay,
Mm-hmm.
according to even biblical, at the age of 13, they are supposed to start to think independent and to get ready to leave the nest pretty soon, right? They
Correct.
are supposed to during teenage stage. They're trying to find their independence because they have been dependent on you. Now they're not independent just yet, but they're trying to find their unique identity outside of you. And so it makes it frustrating because I will say this, in America, we baby our children too long.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time, you know, we thrust them out at 18, they don't know anything that they should know. And so TikTok, I crack up because the TikTokers, the young people, man, I wish my mama had said this. I ain't grown at 18. I ain't grown at 21. You know, they're starting to realize that they just didn't have what it takes to become an adult. Right. And so we want to, you know, make sure that we are not shaming them for being quote unquote teenagers that's going through that egocentric phase because they're trying to find their unique identity, and the hygiene issue. We're gonna talk about that next week. Because I love our community, and this is why I'm so passionate for we're failing our children in these areas. And because I deal with the high schoolers, I'm like, man, single parenthood, blame it on whatever, we're dropping the ball. So this is why this topic is so near and dear, because we have to start little. And I hate it. 6, maybe 7. We have to start that young because these children, some of them on TikTok twerking, some of them on TikTok can thrust their hips and butt better than me, right? And so I just,
I
I
have a
just,
Mm-hmm.
I have a 6-year-old here, and like I had mentioned to y'all earlier, we need to teach them even younger. She came home with flowers, candy, and a gift talking about my boyfriend gave it to me, 6 years old. And these boys are giving her, giving her things. And what are they talking about? They talking about, listen, let you sit down and let's have a talk here. And we're going to talk about it. And I know that that young boy did not go out there buying this stuff himself. So apparently, parents, there are young parents who are encouraging these things. And I mean, these are babies. And I mean,
Right.
I went to, I was, I went there to last year, and this is pre-K, the sneaker ball, and how the parents and the young, he bought flowers. And I think that's a beautiful gesture, but these are babies. We're bringing them up to, that they need to learn, even understand themselves. And talk about some boyfriend, please. We're going to talk about that. But this is 6 years old now. I'm talking about. So these are things that are going on now. And just as you talked about the TikTok, what are you seeing these young kids doing? They're twerking and wanting these things around their, want to show their bodies. And this is another thing.
Yes.
That everything goes. They're showing their bodies. And listen, I went on a cruise that I would not even want to take the children when I went there. I mean, people don't wear clothes anymore.
Right.
What I was saying, I said, this is ridiculous. And they
Right.
have children with them with nothing on.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the times we're living. This is why it is imperative that we
Absolutely.
teach our daughters,
Yeah.
your
Right.
body is sacred. Your body is, and this is everything, and you're hanging everything out. That this is, years ago they used to say, you leave nothing, and now things don't change. Though we're in the new time,
Nothing for the imagination.
change. They're still going to see you the same way. If you're loose or whatever, that's what you're going to draw. There's no difference.
Right.
So you showing everything out there. You leave nothing for the imagination. Absolutely nothing. And if you think that's cute, that's, but this is the mindset. And these are even parents who are raising children to feel like this is all right. So we have a responsibility in our community, because we can't make people do what they want to do, but you can take that initiative within your household to teach your child the proper way, of how you conduct yourself, how you're to dress, how you are to show that you have dignity and integrity. And integrity starts as young as you teach them. Because we have children who are very, very, maybe years ago, children may not have been able to grasp certain things, but I see that these young children today are very intelligent.
Yes.
Very intelligent.
Yes.
You can sit down and have a conversation, and I guarantee you they'll understand. Or there's certain they're going to pick it up. So if you don't do it, they're going to learn it somewhere else. And I just also say, encourage those who may be, listening in. We have the chat. You can chat in. If you have anything to add or any questions also, that while we're here. But also, I just wanted to make mention, and I don't want to take us, I know we're coming to the latter part. Also, I wanted to talk about, even young children, and I'm talking about even under the age of 10 and under.
Yeah.
If your children or your daughter, as we're talking about daughters for the most part, are experience, serious emotional symptoms. That's why I said we got to be in tune with our children. Serious emotional symptoms such as depression. I've never seen. Today we seeing depression and suicide. Thoughts as young as 7 and 8 years old, because we live in a time where they feel like they gotta fit in and look like a certain way. And that's why we gotta teach them you are beautiful just as you are. Don't try to be anyone else. Be who you are. But nevertheless, if they're suffering with, serious emotional, don't just put it under a rug or say it's going to go away. If there's, then you need to sort and seek professional, help. Don't let it linger on.
Right.
Because the suicide rate for young children even is the numbers are high. If you really look, you don't see, because sometimes we don't see everything in the media. They have certain things that they gear to, and they'll promote, like they'll talk about certain things but other things are going on. And believe me, suicide is high in young children. So
Yes.
let's not take that lightly,
Yeah.
because they're the peer pressure, even bullying, this bullying and stuff.
Right.
You know, when I was a kid, they had bullying years ago, but we fought. It's not the same today. It's
Right.
just so. These are also things, because as our daughters are, going through emotional things through the changes in their bodies, they're becoming sensitive to where it affects them, that if they're being bullied or whatever, it's really affected. It's so these are just signs that we have
Yeah.
to be watchful of our
So
daughters.
what we want to do is now we want to get into the conversation. How do we open that conversation? So there's a couple of things, even with the signs, that the board did bring out the different signs, emotional, also physical things, the cramping. There's also cravings.
Yeah.
You crave sugar. During the time when your period is getting ready to come on, you crave sugar. And that's the worst thing that you can have. Sugar and caffeine, because they usually go together, because you want some chocolate, and that's caffeine. So that will exacerbate or make the cramping even worse.
Yeah.
And it took me years to figure that out.
Yeah.
Having really really bad cramps, but also understanding and knowing. Talk to your daughter if you have, if there are things that have been inherited. So in
Mhm.
our family, we found out that all of the ladies from my grandmother, fibroid tumors. And so now we're having to have this conversation with our daughters concerning, look, we it's like we develop fibroid tumors, um, and that's something that runs in our bloodline. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up. If your period is, uh, uh, you should have, you may have cramping, but if it's to the extreme, and if you see very, very heavy bleeding where you are bleeding more than the 7 days, so your period should last, a normal period should go anywhere from 3 can go up to 7 days, but 3 to 5 days is
Yeah.
usually about the norm. But if you see where that bleeding begins and it's going on and on and on, more than 7 days, now you've got to do something and figure this out. So hopefully you're talking to your daughters, and have opened that conversation where your daughter will feel comfortable coming to you saying, Mom, my period has been on for more than 7 days. I don't know what's going on. So you can get her to the doctor. So that cramping, craving, mood swings, and the mood swings can happen, what, 2 or 3 years before their period even starts.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So you say, oh my goodness, and I hate when I hear men say, "Are you on your period?" You just feel like smacking them upside the head, because
Mhm.
that's not funny. That's not funny. This is something, a life thing that I'm going through, and you want to make jokes about it. But that's one of the things that we have to deal with, those mood swings. And like Christina said, we deal with that because it's hormonal. So even when we get pregnant, there's the mood swings. After we have the baby, there's the mood swings. Well, once we start hitting premenopausal, there's the mood swings. Menopausal mood swings. Postmenopausal mood swings. So it's like our bodies, the medical community, they're still trying to figure us out. They really are.
Yeah.
We finding out more and more the difference in our bodies from men. Women don't have heart attacks and symptoms of heart attacks like men do.
That's right. That's right. You're right.
We have different symptoms
So,
sometimes.
yeah.
And because they have the research that is happening, it's happening because they're realizing that women's bodies are completely really made up different from men, so we don't always feel the same way. We don't always get those same symptoms. So with that, those things come the growth spurts with puberty. I remember when I looked at my son Calvin, I thought, Father, when did my child's pants get up to his knees? I mean, it's just like, you went to bed last night and grew like 4 inches? I mean, is that possible? So they're those growth spurts. Some children have. I remember a young man in the ministry at back in Winston was growing very fast, and he had aches and pains all in his joints. Then the doctor said because his growth spurt, he was growing very fast.
Yeah.
So that was causing him to have aches and pains in his joints. So that'll happen during puberty. I think it's really, really important for our daughters to know that nobody gets to touch you during that time. Mm-mm.
That's right. That's right.
No. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's father. I don't care if it's brother. I don't care if it's cousin, uncle, grandpa, whoever. The breast area, your behind area, hind parts, and your vaginal area, that is off limits. You do not get to touch me in any one of those areas. And I don't care if you're playing. You don't get to smack me on my butt. It's terrible to smack a woman on her backside when she's has her menstrual cycle.
Right.
That's painful.
Yes.
And it's not something that a man should be doing, especially if he is dealing with a child who is going through this puberty state. It's also inappropriate for a daughter to sit on. Look, we didn't allow our daughters to sit on any man's lap. No, no, ma'am, no, sir, no,
That's
sir,
right.
no,
That's
sir.
right.
Uh-uh. She
Right.
sat on her father's lap. She sat on her grandpa's lap. That was it. She maybe want to she didn't sit on my brother's laps or my brother-in-law's lap. Not after she turned a certain
Right.
size, a certain age, and she stopped sitting on my husband's lap when she turned a certain age. It's like, hey, no,
Yeah.
so that was not even. It was not like we even had to have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
as a little girl, of course, she jumped and sit on her daddy's lap. But we have to be careful with those relationships. And we're going to talk about that next week as we get into moving into your teens. Because
Yes.
sometimes we don't know if we've been in a dysfunctional home. Sometimes we don't know what is appropriate and what
Yes.
is not appropriate.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's right.
these things are not appropriate to
And not.
touch a child, a girl child, in her breast area, and where you're acting like you're playing with her
Right.
because her she's beginning, her breast buds are sticking out. That's painful. And for you to come up and try to pull them or hit her in them or act like it's a game. That's not funny. That's not a game. So we need to be clear that our daughters' bodies are precious, and she is going through a set apart kadosh in Hebrew, a set apart stage in her life where her body is off limits
That's
to
right.
touching her in that area. And she has to feel comfortable and confident
That's
that
right.
when she is dealing with, the men in her family, the men in her school, or boys in her school, or whatever, sometimes they can be very uncomfortable. I
Right.
remember, no, I'm going to say this, and I know that all of y'all going to remember this. And Black women are going to remember this, because if you watch The Color Purple, this was something that all of us know. What did Celie say? Was that Celie? No, that was Oprah. Uh, uh, um, Oprah said it.
All my life I had to
She
fight.
said, all my life I had to fight. She said, a girl child ain't safe in a family full of men.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Fucking men
Sure did
are.
say that. Yeah.
Shouldn't be that way. We
Yeah.
have to declare that thing over our family and over our daughters.
Yes.
And the man of that house needs to step up and be that protector. And
That's
if he is not going to do it, then wifey, you better get up and stand up and be that protector, because those conversations need to be had. That
that's
when a lot of times when a woman has a daughter already and she marries a man, I've heard horror stories about women saying, every time my mother got a boyfriend, I did too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the stepfather now feels like he has rights to his wife and to her daughter,
That's
because
right.
she don't belong to me.
That's right.
So when your child is trying to talk to you, and this is bad in the Black community, bad,
Mm-hmm.
that we
Mm-hmm.
want a man so badly that we will our daughter will come to us and say, he's been touching me. And we
Yes.
push him away and say, stop talking about it. Don't do that. Don't do that. He's a good man. Don't you
Yeah.
trying to break up my marriage. I don't believe you. Look, a child has no reason to
Mm-hmm.
say to say that a man is doing something to her that he's not,
That's right.
unless she's just
that's
a
right.
bad
That's
seed.
right. That's
But if
right.
your daughter comes to you and says, Mama, I have to tell you something, open up. I don't care how bad it hurts. Deal with it. Because if
Deal
you
with
don't
it.
deal with it now, I'm telling you, it's going to kick you. It's going to turn around and kick you in your hind parts later on,
Right.
because she is not going to ever trust you, because you weren't there when you needed to be there. All of these developments of a daughter, where we have been just pushing them off to the side and acting like they were fast, or you're boy crazy. Listen, little girls, my father, we want them to like boys.
Right.
Right. That's true.
Right.
But it's appropriate. It's a proper, inappropriate
It's a
time.
proper,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but you can't. You have to learn skillfully how to speak to your children, and
That's
not
right.
just call her boy crazy
That's
when
right.
she tells you. If she comes home to you and she's 10 or 11 years old and says, "There's a little boy in school that I like," sit
Mm-hmm.
down and talk to her.
Right.
That's the time to sit down and talk to her,
6 years
and you
old.
can make it appropriate. You know what I'm saying? But you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah. I remember talking to my mom and saying, Mom, she goes with him. And my mother was like, where they going with him? Where they go? My mother was just a comedian. Where they going? Where's she going with him? And so we have to really have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Open.
Set proper boundaries. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't make the boundaries so tight that the child feels like they can't discuss certain things.
Yes.
You
Right.
want them to open up and be able to tell you everything.
Everything.
Everything. I remember we didn't let Lori go to school until she was old enough to tell it. And she, yeah, you better believe, bet your
Mhm.
body, wow, that little girl, if somebody did something to her, she told it. We waited until she was old enough to be able to speak out and say, so and so did so and so to me. This one did so. This one did. We have to really parenting is you parenting is it's not an easy job. And if we
Mhm.
think that way, and let me tell you, it's easier to get a job and go to work.
Yep.
That's easy.
Yep.
But parenting and trying to make sure that your children are not watching too much TV, that's another thing. I mean, they have that problem over here. Young ladies dressing just completely inappropriate. I mean, just it has because they have what? TV, YouTube now. So all of the young ladies in Africa want to look like all the young ladies over in the West because that's what's in. That's what's cool. So what are they looking at? They're looking at the Nicki Minaj. They're looking at all of these people, who are not good role models.
Good.
But you have to
Or
be
not. Or
the
not.
role
Or
model.
not.
You have
Mm-mm.
to be the role model.
That's right. That's right.
You have to. So we need to be able to stop the madness. Stop acting like you're so afraid. I mean, we act like sometimes when our kids ask us a question about sex or maturity or whatever, like when you hit push on your phone and all of the icons start shaking.
Yeah.
Start shaking. Oh Lord, they asked me the question. Get over yourself. You have a child. It's your responsibility to train that child. The scripture says, and we don't go deep into scripture on here because there may be some women. We don't care if you believe in the Most High, if you are a believer, if you're atheist, whatever. Raising children a proper way can be done by anyone, regardless of a religious base or
Right.
your religious belief. Because there is a right way and there is a wrong way. It's not subjective. That
Right.
I will never agree that right or righteous is subjective.
Right.
No, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And the right way is to talk to those children and to allow for them to be able to communicate and communicate freely to you on what's
Yeah.
going on in their body because there's so much. Tell them if you have aunties that was their bra size was a double J or a double, let them know, hey, you could possibly be this big, it's a good chance. Or you say, baby, you ain't gonna have much because don't nobody in our family have any boobs. You can tell how their body is shaped. I
Yes.
remember asking, Ma, is this belly like inherited? And she just laughed. But those things we should be able to let our children know. And
Mhm.
when they ask it, that means it's time for us to tell them.
That's true. I agree. I agree with
Yes. 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 So we are gonna start closing, and I wanted to just reiterate because the mothers are here, they flowing. Uh, whether you are atheist, okay, you can take one day out of your week to sit down and talk with your
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
you're going to have to. I don't care if it's 30 minutes a week. For us that are faith based on the
Yes.
Shabbat, this is something that I did because in today's world, I have a lot of kids, 5. And
Mhm.
on the Shabbat, I made the Shabbat about the children. So it was the Shabbat was centered around them. And so during that time we had what like amnesty hour,
Mhm.
and they got to talk about things that were affecting them, and it didn't have nothing to do with biblical. It could have been what was going on in our family, like when we were losing our business and going into foreclosure. Like we gave them the room to be able to express their feelings, what's going on at school, as long as it was respectful, right? We say y'all got to be respectful. If
Right.
you are, if you go to church on Sunday, you can take that time because listen, if you are a faith believer, and I keep doing that because I know we got a lot of people following us that's faith based. You take
Uh,
that time to talk to your children. If this is the Lord's day, or if this is the day that the Most High has set apart and sanctified, don't you think that He wants you to center this time around your family? Don't you
Absolutely.
know that it starts with the family and works
Absolutely.
its way out? You are to give them instructions. So open up that time. And I'm saying this from experience. And it opened the door for my children to be really close, even though they are young adults, and to be close with me. I gave one of my daughters an old school remedy because her eczema broke out. And by the way, the dermatologists, they agree with the old remedy of put a little quarter bleach in the water and soak in it. And so my
Mhm.
daughter said, it just came out. What about my vagina? And I said, your vagina is gonna be okay. You just put in a little quarter because
A
it's
little
gonna
tiny
be
bit.
diluted.
It's not
Yeah, a
perfect.
little diluted. But she was comfortable to say, "What about my vagina? This gonna burn." And her friends is in the background laughing. And so it has become to where she told her friend, you could go to my mom for advice because both of her parents, unfortunately, have passed away at such a young age. But I'm not going to force that. She just
Right.
knows from my daughter, you can go to my mom and ask questions because I think it's
That's
about little boy, right? And I know they 25, 26, but come on to me so I can give you advice. Remember last week I said when the little 17-year-old came to me about little girl advice, I couldn't give him biblical scriptures. I had to give
uh,
him real world solutions so I could keep the girl safe because he was gonna put that little girl out. And I said, you brought her in there playing house. It's your responsibility to make sure she stays safe. So you need to
right.
find somewhere for her to go. And
For
until
her.
you find somewhere for her to go, you gonna let her stay. But you actively find somewhere for her to go back to her mama house, grandmama house, wherever, but make sure she's safe. Don't put that girl out. And
That's
so
right.
we're going to have to, use wisdom that can be found. I know, we love to say the Bible, but most of us don't understand what it means.
So,
So let's
right.
use common sense. Let's use wisdom. Let's use discernment when we are talking about these topics and set
Mhm.
aside one day out of the week. I'm
Absolutely.
serious.
Talk to
30
you.
minutes, an
Right.
hour. You
Right.
have to do it. Not, I don't have time to do it. Yes, you do, because you on
You can't
TikTok.
afford not to do it.
Yeah, you can't
That's
tell
right.
me.
You can't
I
afford not
had
to.
five of them. Five of them. Let me tell you their ages so you can know I had stair steps, if I can remember
Right.
that.
Right.
31,
See.
30,
Mhm.
will soon be 30. Check that out. But Dominique be 32 later on, but 31, 30. We have Matthew. I think he turned 27 or 28, one of them. Layla is 25, and Raymond will be 23. Y'all see them stair steps? So
Yes.
I had three under three at one point. I didn't even have time to breathe. And I was a single mother at one point too, before I got married. So don't come to me telling me what you cannot do. You
Yeah.
can do it. That means you're going to have to sacrifice, but that is what you have decided to do when you
Absolutely.
have children. And we're going to talk about that later on,
Hmm.
how
Absolutely.
a lot of us, and I'm going to say it because we're here to break up some stuff that we having a hard time loving our children. We will take care of our children. We will provide for our children.
That's
But
right.
love is an action orientated word, and we're having a hard time because as soon as they turn 18, you done. You like, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you graduate, but at 18, you getting out of my house. You don't care if they learn. You all you know is you have provided for them, right? You have taken care of them to the best of your ability. And now it's time for you to go on. And I'm saying, I'm not trying to hurt our feelings, but we have to love
Right.
our children. I know and that comes from generational curses of just
Yes. Yes.
surviving and
Yes.
surviving and surviving. I got to take care of these people. I got to feed these kids, but I don't have the time to love them the
Love.
way they need to be loved. So we're going to have to break up all of this as we go down this train of, life as women. We're not men, so we're not coming for the men, but the men are welcome to sit in, right?
Absolutely.
And glean wisdom from each
Mm.
of us. So, anything else before we do the closing statements?
Just really, really quick. We also, I want everyone to think about this. If you have children, younger children, and they're going into that stage of puberty, because truly, puberty leads you right into adulthood. Oh, okay. So there used to be this whole thought of adolescence is a new thing, relatively. But back in the day, you had when a woman or a man reached the age of 13, they were considered up adult. So you went from a child
To the
to an adult, and that we had rites of passage where children did certain things and were taught by their parents and by their grandparents and their senior people in their families or their community that would take them through this rite of passage. And after that, they understand and know you are now accountable
yes,
for your decision making.
Decision.
So in the Hebrew walk, there's something that we have, which is called with our children at the age of 13, bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah.
Right.
And what that means is a son, bar, son, mitzvah, son of the commandments, and then bat, daughter
Of
of the commandments. And what it does, they get up, we have a celebration for them, celebrate them coming into adulthood. And we also have them, there's certain scriptures that they read and certain things that they process that we sit down and we discuss with them, asking them, you understand that you are now at a stage where you have to seek the Most High for yourself. You have to
yes,
seek a relationship with Him for yourself. And what that rite of passage does, it prepares their minds for thinking about as I move forward in this stage and through this stage. And we'll get more into that next week
mm,
because that's when they'll be having to make decisions on what
yes,
kind of friends,
yes,
who they it makes sense to be around, who it makes sense to not be around, the things where places where I'll go, things
Yeah.
that I do, the thoughts of do I want to go to college? What are my aspirations? What do I
mhm,
want to be career wise
yes,
as I grow up? What are the things that these are the thoughts that are supposed to be happening as a child is going through this rite of passage. So
yep,
we really should, if anyone is interested in learning more about that, either one of us, you can reach out to either one of us. To all of us are skilled in that area of understanding what that means from a biblical standpoint, or
Yes.
yes,
even from a a societal
yep,
standpoint. because regardless to what our religious or non-religious view is, we want to raise viable citizens.
That's
We
right.
Yes.
want to raise adults that are going to be an asset to their community and to their world. So I just wanted to just add that in there. If anyone is interested,
Yes.
understanding about that, those rites of passage, and like I said, we'll talk more, go in a little deeper
Yeah.
about it next week.
Yeah, and we have that in the chat because we are. I've been talking about this with our mothers and the elders too, and it, it's going to be a hand picked a bunch of us that are skilled and have fruit on our trees, right? And we are going to
Mm,
put together a committee, a group where you
mm.
could come to us so we can help you with a rite of passage, and also for the adults because that was something that was asked in a
The question
previous
that's
group.
been asked about
Hmm.
adults, because
Hmm.
there's some who feel like they are lacking, and I
They,
think we had talked
Mhm.
about that. And even
Right.
as a parent, you
mhm,
should have understanding, because you need to be knowledgeable, that that you can teach your children, your daughters, your sons, however. But it is, yeah. If y'all see the question, it says,
yeah.
have you all seen
Can't
or
pull up the chat for some reason.
Can't see the chat.
okay. The question is, have you all seen or considered doing a retrospective rite of passage for adults who would
Hmm.
benefit from being affirmed as men or women?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Finding Neshama.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's something that I've been writing notes because I have been reading a book and taking notes and talking with the elders. And it's coming up this year. Like that's something that the most High was like, y'all don't have to wait for that. You all have the knowledge and the fruit. You don't have to wait. Put it together because as we know, it can get better and better every year. But we need to start because people are
Absolutely.
crying out in other groups. Hey, I know y'all talk about the kids, but we need help. And
Absolutely.
that's true. The Brit Milah, some men who come into the faith and realize that they are not circumcised, they go do
That's
that.
right.
So,
They get circumcised. Absolutely. My husband was one of them. 50
mhm,
years old. Absolutely.
yeah,
That's it. And that's what the study of the scripture does for you. And I know you'll have people who are not in the Hebrew law, but in just regular church, and say, well, that's ridiculous because you have to be
right,
circumcised. It doesn't matter that you're circumcised fleshly; you have to be circumcised of the heart. But they go together. The
mhm,
literal, the natural, and the spiritual go together.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
bottom line, what is on the inside is supposed to perpetuate itself on the outside. So that's why Yahweh told Abraham, circumcise the foreskin of your flesh, because it was going into covenant. Look, y'all, it's about covenant. If you want to know about that too, I mean, it's about covenant and everything. We can't make everything spiritual. So we have to understand that there are literal things that he has told us to do.
That's right.
And that if we say that we are of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then they are literal and spiritual go together. They are hand in hand. Absolutely. And if we believe in God the Father and Yeshua being the pure essence of the Father, then that's spiritual and literal.
that's
He
right.
was in the beginning, he was invisible and brought himself down into the earth and became physical. So, I mean, there's nothing you can do with that. So, it's
Right.
these things are very important, and those rite of passages are so important. That would be a
Mhm,
great thing to do for everyone who wants to make that physical step
Physicals, yeah.
into
mhm,
understanding who they are and what they're supposed to be doing, you know, in within their relationship with Yahweh, with God, and with man.
There's a question for you, Robin. She said, "Did you notice a change in your husband's life after he went through the process?"
My husband, no, he was already, my husband was already a rabbi. He was already uh father had already done that work in him. So when he made the decision and the determination, because it was through much deliberation, because he said himself, no, it's more important for the spiritual that my heart is circumcised. But then it said, and I kept taking him back to the Torah with us being Torah teachers, and we kept discussing it, how taking the Passover, Father Yah said, if they are not circumcised, they're not even supposed to take the Passover. So it was a spiritual thing that he had done already with his heart being circumcised. And he made the determination to go and circumcise the flesh. So my husband was already, he was already, that doing the physical was just him doing the physical. He had already turned or already made that change in his spiritual life. So his heart was already circumcised. So no, I can't say that I saw a difference because he was already walking as a righteous man of the Most High.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So any other closing statements before
Well,
we
only one is outside of our actual closing statements, but I just want to reiterate, as we have talked about puberty, and in our children, in our young ladies and the girls, and as we had said, from the age of 8 to 13, and it could be later or it could be earlier, depending on the genetics and other biological different things within that. But more importantly, again, if I just want to stress the factor is relationship, having that open relationship with your daughters, that they feel they can come to you, and then being in tune to see, the different, as we spoke earlier, regarding the different stages and the things that will go on, that you be in tune and see, and just be in tune with our daughters, because we don't want them to go out, because it's too much stuff out there. and
Right.
and we, as a parent, just as Abaya has said, that it's a lot of stuff out there, that they
Right.
can go. We want them to want to come to you as the parent, that they feel that they can come to you, and that you not be so, don't be judgmental, don't be, be open and listen,
Right.
because sometimes, a lot of parents, old school, don't listen, do what I say, listen to them, be in tune with them, and listen even when they're not talking,
right,
Right.
because certain body languages, certain
Right.
things that go
Right.
on, and you
Attention.
gotta be observant on
Right.
that. You can detect something ain't right. Just as they say, what's happening to me, you look to see what's going on with them. Be in touch
Absolutely.
with your daughters. That's what I like to say.
that's
Absolutely.
right. And we have a question. Let me go back, but I know we're gonna tackle this next week. Um, so let me take a screenshot. Okay. One sister said, "Can we have a discussion on how to deal with rebellious children that come from a great home? I love both parents are present, but they are in this stage of life where they are doing things outside of what they've been taught. Biblically, how do you support a teen age 17 in this stage of life?" So that gives us time to
Okay.
We're gonna
come.
get we're gonna
Yeah.
dive in that too. That sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's an excellent topic.
yeah,
Absolutely.
excellent.
Excellent question. And that when we get into that next week, we
Mhm.
can definitely talk, because we're going to be talking about those teen years.
Yes.
Absolutely.
10 years. Yeah.
Want to
Um,
really address it.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, that is
I
wrong.
know, right? Let me make sure I'm
Woo-hoo.
on
I was
YouTube.
one of them. I was one of them.
I'm
Let me
sure
make
my
sure.
mother would say I was one too.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the mothers is like, because I know you ain't listen. Love your mama if she
I
watching.
know. I'm telling you, because the discipline, and we're going to talk about that next week. I mean, and even before we get, you know what? There was something that I do not agree with Rod Parsley's teachings most of the time, but I heard him say one thing, and I said, that's absolutely the truth. He said, when you raise up, you train a tree, you train it at the beginning. So if it's a fruit tree, when you plant it
Yeah.
in the ground, you have to cut all that bark off that tree. Now the tree don't like it because the tree is going through, but in order for that fruit tree to bear fruit and hold that fruit up on its branches, you've got to scale off all of that beginning bark so that that tree will get a nice, good, thick bark.
Yeah.
So as it grows, it will be able to hold that fruit and even bear fruit for you. So there was one thing he said. He said you cannot train. You have to train a sapling. You cannot train a full-grown tree.
Mm.
And that's what sometimes we try to do.
We
We
train.
everything is cute when they were 4 and 5 years old,
Yeah.
6, 7 years old was cute. It's not cute.
No more.
And
Yep.
then hind parts needed to be towed up. That's what needed to happen. But you sitting around giggling and laughing because they looking cute. You better
Mhm.
train that thing when it's young because when they by the time they turn 12, 13, that's a mess.
That's
And
right.
they are full grown. So this age, this rite of passage
There
is
you
so
go.
very important,
Yes.
y'all.
Yes.
You gotta
Yes.
learn to start with these children young and stop
Yes.
looking at them laughing and talking
Mhm.
about what they're doing is cute and it's not with their little sassy mouths and all that stuff. If I'd had my mouth going like that, my mama's hand would have been all in my mouth, all in my grill. I probably wouldn't have no teeth today. Uh-uh.
No,
You know what? But that's gonna be we talk
I
about
know,
that.
yeah, because we got to combat the gentle parenting, which I understand it
Come
all.
on,
However,
come
we
on.
got to use our common
I'm
sense.
with it.
And something that I want to bring to my homeschool hub, to the community, how to teach our children how to regulate their emotions, because when we have not taught them that, by the time they get teenage, they don't know how to regulate their emotions and they angry, and we really didn't give them the space to say
Right,
what they needed to say, so
right,
their emotions, they already going through hormonal changes, so their emotions are, they cannot regulate, because that is something that the teenagers have told me in the high school. They cannot, they don't know how to regulate their emotions, and they're eating all type of things to make their, like, sugar and junk and hot Cheetos, and
that's
just making the symptoms worse. So we're going to get into all of that. And like we keep saying, I know we may have dropped the ball because we didn't know, but now that we know, we can even
enough.
take our teenagers and take them through the rite of passage. You don't have to say because they 12, 13. No, if adults can do it, then teenagers can too. And you never know. That may be the answer to what they are experiencing when you get the
Right.
whole community involved, because the
So,
rite of passage is not just you and the parents, because they sick of you anyway. But when
community.
they get to talk to other men and women outside of that, and
That's
sometimes, like, I know I don't have the answer, because my oldest is struggling. It's gonna have to come from somewhere else, from the vision that he gave me. And I'm okay with that. I just want him to be delivered and set free. I'm okay, because there were some mistakes I made, one of them, and I hurried up with the other four, that 18 is not grown. And I just, follow it. And I was like, well, he ate. My husband was like, no, he ate. And we had a struggle. And I finally gave in. It was like 18 is not grown. But by the time I tried to take that reign back,
Mhm.
we had lost its mind and got into some stuff. So that's what I'm talking about. I am going, y'all know me. Those that know me, I'm transparent. I made that mistake and hurried up and doubled back. It was like, nope, 18 is not grown. Not
Yeah.
to me, especially when I'm paying the bills and you still living at
Right.
home. 18 is
Absolutely.
not grown. And they will
Absolutely.
tell you it's not grown. Y'all
Absolutely.
letting them be grown, but they'll tell you I ain't grown yet. I don't know how to. My daughter just said 25. She said I just learned how to fill out my taxes last year. I'm not. What do you mean? I know I live on my own. I know I pay my bills, but I'm not grown. She don't know how to do a health care. Y'all think about that. Our children, they are not fully grown. They are going into right that adulthood. And
Right.
we speak over them and we show them, but just
Right.
like the most high is the great I am, I will be what I will be. What he is teaching us is that you are ever evolving.
Absolutely.
He's not, we know he's one, but inside of that one is many, and he's
Oh,
ever
much.
evolving.
Expansive.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. He gonna be what
Right.
he will be when he needs to be it at the time he needs to be it, and so
Absolutely.
will you, and so will your children. Your children is ever evolving. So
Absolutely.
I just want to give us some, hope that they will
Right.
not be that way forever. That they
Forever. No.
have the right to evolve
Right.
into the adult that they are going to be, and even when they reach what we think is adulthood, they have the right to continue to evolve, just like I'm evolving. I'm in my 50s. That's Jubilee for me. I'm evolving. I'm not the same as I was when I was
Absolutely.
40, right?
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. So good questions. When they have to learn that the world doesn't revolve around them. Yep, they'll learn that when they get paying them
Absolutely.
bills. They realize the world don't care
And,
nothing about
and
you.
and that's something that we should teach them at the beginning. The world does
Yeah,
not revolve
I
around you.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. That's something
It
we
doesn't. I mean, even
do
when they're small and they begin.
when
I
they're
remember
small. I
my
agree.
daughter want to cry and cry and cry, and it's like, look, I got other stuff I need to do. I cannot sit here and look in your face all day.
That's
You're not
right.
hungry. You're not wet. There's nothing wrong with you. So guess what? If you want to lay there and cry, we're
Yeah.
good because that's what babies do. That's the only way they can communicate. And
Yeah.
she got it. She was a little baby.
She
She got
regulated.
it.
Mhm.
And she realized the world does not revolve around you. Children come into a home, an already structured home. Why are homes structuring themselves to that child? No,
Mhm.
the child gets structured into the
Mhm.
home.
Mhm.
That's how it's supposed to be. So
Mhm.
that's how children
Yeah,
feel everything revolves around them.
and they run the house. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that's it, and it sounds, I don't know, it sounds
But
harsh
in the process
probably,
of it,
but
you
it's
teach
not.
them responsibilities. They have to learn responsibilities.
That's right.
And my
Everybody has
daughter,
a responsibility to the
yes,
home.
and
Mhm.
my daughter, she fussed with us because she's 25 and her dad still take care, and that's my husband. I'm not saying everybody, fathers do that. But my husband, he believed in taking care of his girls until they get married. Now they pay their own bills and things of that nature. But if they need car repair and things of that nature, he steps in because he believes he's the gift giver until
Mhm.
the husband comes.
In a
And
sense,
so
that's good. That's good.
scripture,
That's
right?
good.
Scripture. Hmm.
Yes, my daughter will call my husband in a minute. She don't call him to. Well, she
Yeah.
will call. She'll call him
Mhm.
here and ask him stuff
Yes.
about the car. Yeah.
And we have to, teach our girls and boys, the meaning of life, and those of us that are the Hebraic faith, the meaning of life, um, through that lens. So y'all just keep following us because parenting, don't let the new age parenting fool you, because we have a lot of children, as I said, that cannot regulate their emotions. And whether we like it or not, I know some of us, have been traumatized. But some of us that come from ex baby boomers, what is it, the silent generation. Oh, you know how I know we could regulate our emotions? Because they were going through Jim Crow and still decided to get up and go to work every day and to do what they had to do. And then
And they
we
knew when they keep their mouth closed and when they could speak.
regulate your emotions and
Trying to stay alive.
yes, try to
Absolutely.
stay alive. And now we see that what is it? The alpha and the not millennials, they what was that generation before them? Alpha, I forgot. Dang, it's
That
so
was
many.
X.
Five.
That wasn't generation. Oh,
I'm X, but I think it's millennial. Is it alpha? But I thought it was Z. Them
I
Gen
don't
Z.
even know what
Oh,
generation. I don't even know what generation.
baby boomers. So yeah, so the baby boomers. So Gen Z, that generation right there. I love them, but I mean, you know what? And they cannot regulate their emotions. And this is, what I believe is the sin showing up, from the lack of the parents in the household, capitalism, working, not care. I'm not going to say not caring, but you got to work, right? And so the children are left to raise themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and we see the damage of that in both of those generations because they cannot regulate, they cannot show up to school, they cannot respect the teachers, they cannot. And I'm like, we have dropped the ball, and it's showing in the generation. I know people like, why she bring up generations? Because I am a Torah teacher and the Bible speaks on generations. So, I'm always going to talk about generations. Yeah, because
Yes.
I'm responsible for the next two generations. As a matter of fact, I'm not responsible just for my children. I'm responsible for my children's children, like two at
And
least.
that's what he says. That's what he says.
I'm just
And
saying.
let me make a correction. So me and Prophetess Deborah are not baby boomers. We
What,
came
what,
after the baby boomers. So the baby
really?
boomers are right after the World War II up to
Okay.
1954. I was not born until
Oh,
1958. Thank you.
excuse
More than
me.
50 seconds.
Excuse me.
They are 71 to 79. I am not there yet.
So, what are you, X?
I don't know what it is. I tell you, I don't know what I am.
That's what
I'm
they say on Social Security, but who knows? Maybe we are.
yeah. But the generations and each, because I didn't experience Jim Crow, so I know that I did not experience that. So my elders who have
Yes.
a different thought process than even I do, but I do know I can regulate my emotions enough to go to school, doing my my parents
Now,
said,
what I
hold
what
it
I
down.
was what I was involved in, this was in New York City, that I was one of the first when they started the busing, because a lot of people
Me
don't think it
too.
started in the
Me
north.
too.
But I was in that first group when they bust, because I went through a
Yeah,
cultural shock. I went through a
me too.
school,
Yeah,
my elementary and middle school
yeah,
was predominantly,
yeah,
Black and
yep,
Hispanic. And
yep,
then I went to an all,
yeah,
of lighter persuasion school, and they didn't want us there. They fought. They
yep,
even had chains. I mean, ran
yep,
some. One day I wasn't at school, but they ran, to the buses and had chains and everything, and the police
yeah,
never showed up. It was terrible. But
yeah,
even then, I guess I was some of a. I didn't
yeah.
really, I
Right.
wasn't there at school, but I went to school. My mother says, well, Deborah, maybe you don't need to go to school. I said, I'm going to school. And you know what I did that next day when I found out that they chased them to the bus stop? I don't even know why I wasn't there, but maybe I had an asthma attack. I don't know. But I wasn't there, and they chased them to the train station in the bus, and even it was terrible. But that next day, and mind you, I was in the ninth grade. because I went there from the ninth grade.
Oh, wow.
I took a group of us went to the principal office, and they said, "Well, you don't have one." I said, "We're going in the principal office," and I went in there, and I talked with him, and I said, "We want police protection." I've always had an issue with injustice, even
Mhm.
from,
Yeah, it happened.
even at that age,
Yeah.
that was an injustice to me. And
Yeah,
Okay.
it happened with us in North
New
Carolina.
York, I went to, and so I was in the
Yeah.
first.
Well, that's funny because in North Carolina we didn't have a problem.
Y'all didn't?
Mm-mm.
In Chicago, we were busing.
This was in
They
the
bust us. They bust us right on. I was in the 7th grade, and that's when they started the busing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anybody getting all
Really?
black or
They were
any.
protesting out in front of the school, and this is in the Bronx.
Wow.
This is in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Wow. Nobody. We got on the bus, got off the bus.
Really?
And it was like, yeah. I mean, unless I was just completely just so oblivious to what was going on, but I don't remember anything happening. And look, I just looked it up again. Now somebody else is saying we're baby boomers from 1946 to 64. These people don't know what they're talking about.
And
We are baby boomers, you know.
you are? You must be on the line. You must be right there on the line of
Yeah, I think so.
No, it's up to 64. We are above. We are.
That's 64.
We were
So
born
that's
in.
But you know that has changed, because about 40 years ago, I remember when I was in my 20s, they were calling people who were born during the time right after the Second World War the baby boomers.
Yeah.
Because the men came back from war and women were getting pregnant like crazy. It was like boom. It was like the whole country went wild with birth, because the men had been at war for so long, and now we're back home. But anyway, I'll be a baby boomer.
All we know is we got.
I don't know what I was. I told y'all I was one of them late babies. I was raised with grandchildren. My mother had grandchildren when I came along.
Woo.
I was one of them old, what they call them, the old age children.
Children. Well,
in my youngest.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that. Hopefully, I can get a class together. And I know young adults saying we need emotional regulation, how to learn how to regulate our emotions. What is that? Because we weren't taught that. And I hear you, because I know it wasn't taught.
Some ashwagandha.
Look, I take that, and I take L-theanine, but we'll talk about that, because I'm looking at the kids like get at L-theanine is such a safe not a medication. What menopause brain child supplement. It's a safer supplement that crosses the brain barrier, that actually calms you down and gets you to focus. Kind of like Adderall. You put L-theanine and caffeine together. It's kind of like Adderall, what they give to ADHD.
Wow.
We'll get there. Some of us need that because
interesting.
Yeah, I studied a lot, especially with a lot of our people being bipolar, and I know that's the word, but it really is just a chemical imbalance that takes you up and down, depression up and down. So a lot of us, because of where we come from, like Jim Crow, Great Depression, a lot of our people struggle with that, and they just survived. But however, that next generation got the survival fruit, and then that next generation got the survival fruit, and now we are here. So this is why we're bringing it up, because it's going to lead to further discussions down the road, because us younger adults, in some of us middle-aged adults, we need some supplements. We need some supplements. Okay, we just can't be crazy all our lives.
Right.
All right. I'm gonna go into ending it before I get myself in trouble. Our email is the righteousview01@gmail.com. Please send your topics that you feel will be beneficial to the discussion. If you have a degree or special training in a specific area related to women's health and would like to be a special guest, please email your bio and we will review it and reply back as soon as we can.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, please tune in. Tell a friend, neighbor, tell everybody. Next week's topic is relationship with yourself and others as you move into the teen years. If you put a comment in the chat that we didn't address tonight, please email us. It's through the, you'll see it at the bottom of the screen. Please email us and we will reply as soon as we can. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you.
Yes, and we thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to another edition of The Righteous View. Good evening, everyone, and everyone have a great rest of your week.
Shalom.